Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'd just like to welcome you aboard today's flight.
Hello, guys, and welcome to our first podcast for FlykeART. So the reason why we started a podcast is we kind of wanted to show us entrepreneurs and new entrepreneurs like us. We wanted to show them the techniques that we used for organizing our team and moving our idea forward. So this is the main reason for the podcast, so let's start it right now. I'm here with the two main co-founders of FlykeART, Juan Pablo and Yuhan. And they're here today to talk to you guys a little bit more or explain about what FlykeART is. So can you guys explain exactly what is FlykeART?
So FlykeART is a startup company whose mission is to reduce the operating cost for airlines by reducing their overall weight for their in-fleet. So that is our main scheme of what our objectives are.
Okay. And how did you come up with this idea? Was it yours? Was it collective? Like how did it show up?
So Juan Pablo started with his own dream to tackle this challenge that airlines have been struggling for a long time, and then I was invited to this team as one of his co-founder, and then this is a grand challenge. He couldn't do it alone, so he wanted some help in engineering aspects, business aspects. He wanted to build a master team to get this dream going. So that's how it all started.
Right. So so we're international students. I'm from Argentina. I've lived in many countries, including Colombia and the U.S. And Yuhan's from South Korea, and he's also lived in Canada and the U.S. So how about you, Nacho? Where have you lived? Can you tell us a little bit more about you?
Yeah. So I'm also an international student from Argentina. Funny story is I've never lived in a country for more than 5 years.
Yep.
So I grew up 4 years in Buenos Aires, and then I moved to Bolivia, where I lived for 4 years. And then I moved to Brazil, and then after that I went back to Argentina for 2 more years, and then I went back to Kuwait, and that's where I did high school. And then came here and met you guys at Purdue.
Yep.
So
we travel a lot because we've lived in many countries. So I remember I was traveling back to Argentina in a flight, and then I suddenly realized how bad the carts that are used today for serving the meals on board were. So I was bored in the flight, and I just started thinking of ideas and how this could be changed. And initially what happened was I thought, in the planes, pretty much nothing had changed in a while. So what I always say is the exterior of the plane is kind of like a Ferrari. It's super efficient and overly engineered. It's really good. Planes are getting faster, much more efficient, cheaper. The things at the interior remain pretty much the same. In fact, it has gotten worse with time, just because to try to reduce costs, airlines try to make the seats to be
more
uncomfortable, smaller. Well, we know this, right? The meals are getting worse every time, to the point where the chicken that they serve you is not really chicken anymore. So yeah, I just thought there were a lot of problems, but one that drew my attention a lot were these food carts that they used are pretty much like tanks that block the whole aisle. As a passenger, I always get hit by the cart. I always hated how flight attendants had to wake me up in the middle of the night. And I also thought, there's a lot of new technologies that are coming up, such as, seat back screens that the planes are incorporating, as well as Wi-Fi. So I thought, hey, what if, we can actually try to make a robot that would be autonomous and would be able to go ahead and serve the meals for the passengers once they order from their devices, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this was the first idea, but I really had no clue whether this would be feasible or not, right? So I remember when I got back home, I got in contact with Ascentio. It's an aerospace company from Argentina. And they were trying to show me their projects and stuff, and I thought, hey, what if I just try to pitch my preliminary idea, but I don't disclose the full thing? I just tell them that it's confidential because we're working on it, and I see what their feedback is, right? Because they had experience in the industry. So I was pretty surprised that when I told them about my idea, and I had some sort of like preliminary numbers in mind and like what would be the impact of the fuel cost just because this robots would replace human people on board trying to serve passengers and all their luggage, and as well as like significantly improve the weight of the cart. So I factored everything in, and initially I thought, well, I mean, if we could have this autonomous robot, my initial number was, we could save airlines $250 million. So
And have you gotten any validation from that, or at that point?
Yeah. So at that point, I had no validation, but I'm an aerospace engineer. I'm also in economics. I'm a senior year student, but at that time I had a little bit of experience with planes. So I kind of had a rough estimate on what the numbers would be, and I was actually pretty impressed. I was actually more than being impressed on like how much money an airline could save. I was actually super impressed on why this problem hadn't been solved before, just because I know that airlines are extremely obsessed with customer experience and trying to be innovative, right?
And also traveling a lot. I'm sure you've heard this complaint from a lot of other people too. They get woken up or just get hit by the carts.
Yeah.
So it's surprising that no one actually came up with that idea.
Totally.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and then so I gave the pitch, and it was very surprising to me that this aerospace company was like, wow, this is actually a brilliant idea. Like, how far along are you? So I hadn't even started. It was just like a crazy idea I had in mind, and I had never like actively tried to start a company before. So that's why I think it's important to do this podcast, because we want to actually like document every single step on how we started and what we started. Actually, I think even like the title for this should be like how to start a company, starting day one. So I mean, the first step was I picked up the phone after the pitch, and I was like super excited because I thought, wow, like I have like this great idea that people want, right? Like, let's try to build it. So the first thing I did was I called Johan over the phone, and then I called Juanse. The reason is because I knew I wanted to like get like very talented engineers to try to give me a perspective whether they thought this was feasible, and then we could do this, right? So as soon as I talked to Johan over the phone, I think he was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. I don't know what he felt, so I'm just gonna leave him to talk a little bit about how he felt after that phone call.
Yeah, Johan, give us your opinion as well. Come on.
Yeah, for sure. So in the beginning, when I got a call from Juan Pablo, I wasn't really sure what the project was about, and at the end of the day, it was his idea, his problem that he found from his own experience and his professional career, and I just wanted to kind of be just wanted to be part of it, because it's always good experience and good feeling to be part of something with friends and building something new. So in that mindset, I thought it was a cool thing to do. So in that regard, that is why I decided to spend my time with him working on this project that I didn't think it was possible or impossible. And then, as any other startups do, it was very difficult, very time consuming, and not to mention we're all full-time students. So it was more of a grudging through the process rather than enjoying the moment at the time in the beginning, because we don't have any structure, no legal advices, no to be honest, no startup experience either for me. So for me it was great, but then it was just I was just happy that I was be part of something at that moment, and the startup was something that I've always dreamed of. I always thought it was kind of cool to build my own company. After many internship experience, I thought it'd be nice to be my own boss and do something. So that was my impression on how I started.
That's really interesting. I've learned more in this podcast than when I was actually with you guys.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't present for that part. And that brings me to the next topic of how you guys picked the team. I know you guys, the main three founders, you explained that.
Yeah.
But how did you find the other aspects that you needed?
So I think the best answer to that is, and going back to what Johan said, like when you first start and you have an idea in mind, and since you've never done this before, it's like, how do we start, right? Like you don't even know how to start. So the first thing we did was, we got together in my dorm, and then we just started like writing in a board, like what were the aspects of what we were trying to solve and like how my solution could match, right? Now, Johan here is an aerospace engineer too, and he actually said, "Hey JP, stop, because I don't think I think your idea is crazy. Like, it's not even possible just because you want to have a robot on board with electrical components and stuff." So I think he came up to me with like a document with all like the cabin regulations and everything, and he was like, "There's no way we can do this. So we're gonna have to shift." So for a while, we started like going back and forth, talking about like what we thought we could do, and with the other co-founder that has left the team, but he's a mechanical engineer, and so we tried to like start talking about it, like brainstorming a little bit on, okay, what can we do, like how can we replace can we actually replace flight attendants? Like, is that going to be a problem? Like, how are we going to compensate for that? Or are we like, we don't want to take their jobs, right? But at the same time, like, airlines are spending so much money that it's actually like not feasible for them to have flight attendants on board. So we started looking into it, and we got to the point where we decided like just having a team of engineers, or at least that was my mindset. I don't know about you, Han. I think he wasn't like completely on board yet at that point. But my mindset was like, if we just have a team of engineers, it's gonna be hard to solve this problem. So I need more people that are international and that come from different backgrounds. So I remember, I was like in a party or something, and I was like talking to someone, and then you were there with one of our programmers. And we're just talking about the idea, because I mentioned to someone that we were working on a startup, and when I told you about it, I think you like really liked the idea, and that's think how we started talking. So I don't know, can you like talk about like what you thought of at that point?
Yeah, so kind of like the beginning of the podcast when you were explaining what FlykeART was, when you said that part of airplanes being a Ferrari on the exterior, but an old car on the interior. That really got to me, and I started realizing that was a problem. And when I look back into my recent trips, because that's when we came back from summer as well.
Yeah.
So at that point, I was very convinced that was a problem that was gonna be like the solution for that problem was very big, and I wanted to be a part of that team. Also, because when Johan said that I wanted to be my own boss, and I also wanted to work in a startup with friends. It's also my first startup experience, and there's a lot of things that I wanted to learn. Especially, there's a lot of things that you don't learn in school or from reading in textbooks. It's more of putting yourself out there and trying new stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to do, and that's how I like started with FlykeART with you guys too.
Yeah, that's nice.
And but yeah, so. Now that you have this team put together and everything, what was your whole thought process on how to organize meetings at the beginning? I know for a fact that at the beginning our meetings were very disorganized. We were going from one place to another, jumping from ideas to ideas. We couldn't focus on what exactly we wanted to do. So how did organizing, or what was the plan for organizing the meetings once you realized that we had that problem?
Yeah. So I think the first thing was for us to at least like try to get together once a week, to at least start talking about the problem and how we would do it, right? And the other thing, at least like from my part, was let's try to set like clear guidelines on like people not being late, and then let's try to establish a way to organize ourselves. But at the same time, it's very hard because a lot of people are not really into this yet, because like pretty much it was just me having this crazy idea, and the other people were like, oh, I think this is cool, but let's see where this is going to go, right? At least I think that was the case for you, Han. So we just started getting together, and you can relate, every single weekend we would just get together on Sundays from like 1 to 4 p.m. and then we would just start drafting ideas on the plane, and start looking at, okay, how are the food cards that are used today, right? And how the flight attendants like serve you the food, and what can we improve, and what were our experiences. And then we just started like brainstorming a lot of stuff until we came up with the first idea that was not the robot, but was actually we can still make this card lighter and better without actually having to have a robot, right? So I think the first thing we did was like try to create a computer model of this, right? And then we wanted to like get into multiple competitions, and we thought, hey, well, I mean, if there's a way to validate that our idea is actually good, is by like putting our idea out there and trying to learn from experiences. So I know, Johan, do you want to like further talk about like how we went through this?
Yeah, so I would like to answer this in a little different way. So I guess my first objectives for putting meetings together at least was, well, first of all, having at least once a week, getting together and just kind of talk about the process and what we need to achieve by the end of the next week. I thought it was important to see each other in person to get that done. Another thing is trust, I think, kind of getting to know each other. I've known Juan Pablo for a while, but didn't know him in a context of, like, as a fellow business person. So
as a friend, not a...
Exactly. I play soccer with him. We hung out during free time, but I never really done any startup or even projects. We were in a different years. So just getting to figure out whether this person works the same way as I do. Does he, like, his work ethics, the goals, the way he talks, how he conveys his thoughts. I just wanted to make sure that that's compatible with me. So just figuring that out through those arranged meetings was number one goal, and that's still my number one goals when it comes to hiring new people, inviting new members to our team, is that I want to make sure that they are compatible with us so that it doesn't put a huge dent on our current dynamics in FlykeART. So that was my personal number one goal, and believe me, if anyone who wants to do a startup, I can tell you that it's almost as hard as try to be make your own movie without having any equipment or not even knowing how to even hire anyone. It's that crazy. It's that hard. It's like pretty much bringing your thoughts into reality. So just figuring out where the money's coming from, how to start. What defines a company? How do we talk to customers? Where do we find it? We didn't know any of those. We just wanted to see our ideas just being implemented to solution that was needed. So. With that being said, there has been a lot of argument, and then that's exactly why we kept on having meetings. I mean, we met in person every Sunday, but we pretty much talked every day over the message and WhatsApp. So it was pretty much a constant meetings, and it definitely affects our other priorities and schedules, but it had to be done in order for us to get to the next level, next stage of a startup. So I think the initial part, like motivating ourselves to keep it going, even after all the arguments and fights and disagreements, because I think that's where a lot of people get discouraged in the very beginning stage, is that they don't understand how hard it is in the beginning, and then when they face it, it becomes really, really, really time-consuming, discouraging. So that was my opinion that was my perspectives on how the meeting should have gone. So, and then I think we did a pretty good job overcoming that path, and we're still going through it, but because we've done it for a while now, we were pretty good at how to solve problems and how to overcome disagreements, and I think we've all become very effective communicators as a team. So that was my impression.
So how do you feel with the team chemistry now compared to what it was at the beginning, where maybe the people that we added to the team, they were either your friends or they were friends with Juan Pablo, or they were, from different sides of friendships, but you didn't completely trust? Or is there any issues like that? Or
so right now, I think our team is a very optimum state. We're very good state right now. Everyone knows what they're doing. As you can see, we started our first podcast. I'm sure the audience can know that this is, you can't really do this without any sort of organizations. People are doing their parts. That's why this could have happened. And I'm sure you guys all seen the media, social media, LinkedIn, or articles. FlykeART's been working really hard, and we've been out in media. So, I mean, it's a no-brainer for everyone to understand that FlykeART's been pushing really hard since April, the first public release. So, right now, I think everyone knows what they're doing. Everyone's doing every part. Not everyone has a single position they're only dedicated in. That's one thing about startup in the beginning, is that everyone has to do everything. Doesn't matter if it's co-founder, it doesn't matter if it's the initial member, everyone's doing every part. And in terms of that, I think everyone's doing pretty good. I'm just grateful the fact that everyone buys in our vision and motivated enough to work on it. And in that regard, I think Juan Pablo has something to say about how motivating other people, team dynamics, how the meeting structure goes, how do we discipline others, how do we separate our friendship to a professional environment. So I'm gonna have him speak about that.
All right, sounds good.
So,
Welcome back, Juan
you know,
Pablo.
as the first co-founder who started with this, I think I clearly have a vision on the fact that, you know, a company is all about evolution, right? So I think when we first started, like, people thought, you know, okay, this is like a cool project, but maybe they didn't take it as, you know, we're gonna build a startup, like we're gonna build a company. It was like more like, hey, let's do this on the side during the weekends, and it's gonna be more like a school project, and then we'll see where it leads, right? So I think, you know, my first problem, I would say, was, you know, I was like really into this idea, and I wanted to like really start pushing hard because I thought, you know, there was a lot of potential. The fact was that, you know, we had this is like pretty much a homemade setup that we have, so you know, bear with us for the microphone and the video. But so when we first started, we didn't have a clear objective. We didn't even know if the problem that we were solving was valid or even if the solution was possible. So that created like a lot of, you know, mistrust among like the co-founders, right? Because like, how can I force, you know, my other co-founder to put in a lot of work if he's actually not very sure if this is something feasible? Like, it's crazy. Like, you know, he works, he was in his master's degree. He was into a lot of stuff, research, you know, academia. He has his other projects. So we talked about it a lot, but it was kind of hard to first gain the trust of that co-founder. So I think the first part was, you know, if you're actually going to have someone's going to be a co-founder, you need to be all on the same page so you can start moving forward. Otherwise, I think like at first it was just me like trying to push the team as hard as I could. So it was just like my strategy. I think it worked. You know, I think this is a really good.
Oh no, it did. You were rough on it.
Yeah, we were rough.
That one I'll agree on, and I'll chip in.
Well, I mean, you showed up late to every meeting. I remember I got pissed at him once because he showed up late by like 40 minutes. I was like, "What are you doing here?"
It happens. Whereas student life and student startups, you know, it happens. You have to do school.
Yeah.
Figure other stuff out in the way. So that's part of the complications of being in it. But yeah,
I mean, at least that validated to me that he was gonna be like a public relations person, right? Because showing 40 minutes late after partying the night before, I was like, yeah, this is the guy. We want to have him. So.
Well, I would like to point out that to answer to your question, it's kind of like a relationship. You know, in the beginning, you know, you like it, but you don't know how to begin. You don't know where it's gonna go, and then you just kind of start. You kind of do the best you can, and I think that's how it was. You know, we didn't know where we're gonna end up. We just kind of start because we like it at the moment. Yeah. And I think we did a pretty good job managing our time and our emotions, our passion, other priorities, and I mean, here we are. You know, we started this almost a year ago, and then we're still together. We have a bigger objective now. We gotta set customers. You know, people are looking on us. You know, so we got a lot of people. We owe to a lot of people for helping us to where we are today, and we worked hard. We earned it. Yeah. So, and we could only done it because we have a team. So, it's a lot to add.
So yeah, I mean, like, so as I mentioned, like, first it was just me like trying to push very, very hard, and then try to like show something, and then I think it was a good thing because you know, we started like winning competitions, and after that point we started making money, and then like people validated, oh, like, wow, like this is actually going somewhere. So I think, yeah, that's how we started working. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your answers. I have one more question, and then
Sure.
I'll let you go for the day. So like you mentioned that you have set customers and all that. At what point did you start contacting airlines? Like, at what point did you decide that, okay, we have enough information, or did you just call them for validation, for inputs on what they would think about? Like, what was your whole reasoning behind contacting the airlines? And
Right. So, okay. So, I mean, the first thing we did was, you know, we had no idea how to start. So we said, okay, let's just like register for this business model competition that happens here at Purdue every year. So, yeah, I mean, we registered, and then this competition, the way it worked was they had different workshops every 2 weeks or so during the semester. So they would like give you like guidance on how to start. The thing is that these workshops were actually like a good guide to know that there was a path towards like getting where you wanted to, but there were like no clear instructions. And I think that's the thing to learn about startups. Like you have to know that there's never clear instructions. Like just know that for sure.
And
there's
no startup is the same.
No startup is the same. It's all
Yeah.
about like chemistry and how your company works and your own subculture and the people. That's why it's so important to be like, to like be very sure when you're trying to get a team as well. So yeah, I mean, we started going to these workshops and they told us, just go ahead and try to talk to as many customers as you want, right? So we had no idea, like how do we actually contact someone, right? So there was something that I had tried before, which was like just sending emails to people right off the bat, like trying to look for their emails on like online directories. So what we did was, I said, hey guys, let's try this method. So we like created like an Excel spreadsheet and we tried to find like every single person we can find for every airline, and then we listed their contact info and their email as well as their phone numbers. And then when we created this huge database, and guys, this is like huge advice for trying to find your initial customers, and this is very strong for marketing and selling. So yeah, I mean, and then we just like mass emailed a lot of people saying, hey, we're a group of Purdue students trying to do some research on a project, which that was the case at the time. And then we just started getting like instant responses from CEOs and vice presidents from the airlines, and I think we were all pretty surprised. What did you think about that, like the fact that we did that?
Yeah, well, when we started sending emails, I wasn't really hopeful that we were gonna hear back from people at such high ranks, because what we did is we at first when we emailed managers, they all said that they couldn't give us any information because they didn't it wasn't under their responsibility, or they couldn't disclose any information about the company. So we had to turn to these high-ranked individuals in different airlines. So in my head, I was thinking we're never gonna get a response. These guys are always busy. They have more important things to do than talk to students. So when I started getting connections on LinkedIn from VPs and CEOs from different airlines as well, I was surprised. I was happy. I remember sending screenshots to my dad. And I kept saying like, "Hey, I'm gonna be more important than you on LinkedIn." But yeah, so I thought that was surprising at first. Yeah. And then it was a good technique. So it's something that you can't be scared of contacting people higher up. In fact, they're the people that are gonna be able to help you the most. So that's for the viewers and listeners. This is an important feature of like when you're trying to contact the people. Yeah. Don't just contact lower members or just the working class. Focus on working on trying to contact people higher up, because in the end of the day, they're the ones that are going to make the decision about throwing this product forward, or if they're able to give out more information. So that's a good thing to have in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the reason why we've been able to have such a successful having a customer and being able to talk to our potential clients is because the customer discovery, I'll say. We had a very strong customer discovery. We talked to a few professors or competition hosts, and they said the FlykeART team had a very strong customer discovery process, and the results as well. Just like what Juan Pablo and Nacho said, we send out hundreds and hundreds of emails. And that's something I want to point out to all the startups too, is that you have to ask people how good your idea is or how bad. Like you have to validate that as you go. And then while you're asking that questions, you can figure out what direction you can take. It's almost like startup, you don't know where to go. But if you ask someone, better if you're asking potential customers, then you can kind of know where you're supposed to go and what you're supposed to focus in. So that's what we did really good. That's why I think we've been so successful and we've been able to win a lot of competitions, because we were constantly validating that we're on the right track, and people's been loving what we're doing, and most importantly, we never stopped. Yeah.
So one other thing is, like, if you're a student and you want to like build a startup, right? There's I see a lot of people that say, hey, I can't build a startup because I don't have time, right? And I just think that's like completely false. Like, so I'm actually at the time doing a double major, in engineering and economics, and it's like very, very time consuming, especially here at Purdue. I also try to like have a balanced social life, play soccer, and like how hard that is in school. If you're a student, you're probably going to understand.
Or if you're working and you're also trying to
Absolutely
start up at the other time, it's also a good idea to keep in mind that it's you can make your time, you can find time to do it. You don't just quit one or the other. Always keep on working on your idea. That's a good tip.
Yeah, it's absolutely possible, and everyone has their own pace, right? So what I mean is like, in class, most of the time you have like free time when the professor is saying something and you're not paying attention. So instead of like browsing Facebook or like going through social media, what I would do was like, no, let's actually like pour this time to make something important happen, right? So I would like keep on working on the directory and keep on shooting emails. And I think we've shot more than, I don't know, like 5,000 emails or more. I don't even know. Like, it was crazy. Like, that's what I would do with my free time every single day. I kind of like started getting obsessed, right? And then I would just like start getting a lot of responses. And then, our technique was, hey, we already have them in the, like on email, and we have their contacts. Let's try to get them on the phone, right? And that was like a whole different conversation that I think we can leave for the next podcast.
Yeah. And well, we've touched on a lot of the topics that I wanted to talk about today, and we reached our time limit. So tune in to the next podcast. We'll make sure to at least drop one a week. We're going to try and keep them updated and keep you guys updated as well, so you can follow our progress and see how we're doing and learn more about FlykeART. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
you.
For 5%.